Tomahawk assigned 2011's Hobo with a Shotgun to me because he thought, in his words, I'd be able to raise something interesting out of the muck. Well, it's a bloody muck indeed, and I do think I have one or two appendages we might take a hack at. In fact, I think I may even be able to coin a new term for a film like this. But first, the plot. The hobo, played by Rutger Hauer, is riding the rails when he decides to get off at Hopetown in order to pursue his version of the American dream, namely, panhandling enough change to buy a lawnmower to start a landscaping business. What he finds is a town seemingly in the throes of apocalypse. The town is overrun with criminals of every variety and is run by a vicious crime family who make public displays of their gruesome killings in order to simultaneously entertain and scare the crap out of the general population. The hobo gets in the middle of this muck while sticking up for a street whore. The ensuing altercation between him and the Jersey Shore-esque sons of the crime family leads him to the Hopetown police. But the cops are in the pockets of the crime boss, and the hobo is beaten viciously. The whore ends up nursing him to health, and the hobo soon decides to put the pursuit of the American dream on hold. Instead, he buys a 20-gauge shotgun and blows away all sorts of vagrancy in ways that are gleeful as they are bloody. The crime boss declares war on the vigilante along with anyone else who may be living on the streets. The hobo and the whore must fight for survival, and then, well, you could sort of guess the rest. One kill gimmick is topped with another until the big blood splattering ending. There's lots of reasons to see this movie if you like your killings fast and often and bloody as hell. The whole thing makes you feel like you've been on a 6-day Gears of War video game bender, geeked out on a steady diet of Monster Energy drink and crystal methamphetamine. Hell, that sounds like a good time, I admit, and in a different time and place I'd probably have a racuous good time with the film. But the truth is, it's a blast for about a half hour before the in-joke gets threadbare, the violence numbingly repetitive, and the film ultimately boring. But boring wasn't the problem I had with it. Like I said, another time and place, it's lots of fun and a solid recommendation. The director, Jason Eisner, has a clear vision, and I sense he achieved exactly the film he was set out to make. My issue is what the film is in the larger sense of the word. It's not horror, so let's cross that out right away. It's not scary, wasn't intended to be. And it's not exploitation either. Some of the key ingredients to an exploitation film are a low budget, limited means of distribution, and it's being produced outside the Hollywood system. We could check those first two right off. And though Alliance Films is technically a major Canadian production company, the film had its beginnings as a trailer made for Grindhouse, the film from two of Hollywood's reigning princes, Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. So this film is made under their tutelage, and it falls with their films into a category I call faux exploitation. But where in Tarantino's films you can mine through the hard shells of irony and cynicism to find something sincere, in films like this from lesser directors, there's not a sentiment anywhere to be had. Not even genuine sentiment for the styles it's cannibalizing. At least none that I gleaned. I've always had trouble watching exploitation, as Tom I think will attest to. I admit it's a guilty pleasure at times, but there's something perverse and snide and condescending and smug about watching a film because it's bad. I think it has something to do with that phrase in the Bible. He that is among you without sin, let him cast the first stone. Now that applies to sin and sinners, but it also applies to art and artists and films and filmmakers. And here what we have is a film that's made purposely bad. Purposely bad. And so it stands in self-appointed judgment of the films that it claims to be paying homage to. Okay, I came of age in the 90s, the golden era of ironic cynicism, and to be honest, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of ironists and judges, especially those who will mock a film without ever having tried to make one. I'm tired of ironic film watching, and I'm even more tired of ironic filmmakers, too scared to make a film, instead of a film about other films. None of these things, in my opinion, bear much else than bloody dead fruit, and not much hope in Hopetown. All right, so there's a few things I brought up there, guys. The faux exploitation term.
Yeah, what's that? What's that all about?
Yeah, it's not exploitation, man. I mean, quite simply, I mean, it's using the aesthetics that were found honestly in exploitation films and just rehashing them and representing them.
That's what this movie is.
Yeah, and it's all irony, and it's all self-meta commentary, self-mockery, self-aware. Pure visual. And you know what's funny, man, is that we talked about it a few episodes ago with Cronenberg, and he said, what did he say? Well, I think I actually quoted it, and I can't remember exactly what he said. He said something like, a style or is just not enough, or other movies aren't good enough reason to make a movie, and that's what this is. I mean, its sole existence is for um, his other movies, and I just don't think that's a good enough reason.
Are you talking about David Cronenberg, the Canucksploitation filmmaker?
He made exploitation movies, but he did it honestly. Like there's a difference. He wasn't cannibalizing something else
No,
that
not
came
at all.
before
Yeah.
him. He's out there making films outside of the system, and he's making a film that can't be made in the system, and he's doing all the things of exploitation that we had talked about before.
So now Hollywood is exploiting the exploitation films.
Precisely.
Interesting.
Here, let me actually just top it off, man, and I'll kind of let you guys have at it. It's a John Waters quote, and John Waters is an exploitation filmmaker.
Yeah.
But he said this. He said, "Irony ruined everything. I wish my movies could have played at drive-ins, but they never did because of irony. Even the best exploitation movies were never meant to be so bad they were good. They were not made for the intelligentsia. They were made to be violent or for real, or to be sexy for real. But now everybody has irony. Even horror films now are ironic. Everybody's in on the joke now. Everybody's hip, and nobody takes anything at face value anymore."
Yeah. Well, it's sad.
Yeah, well, people are still making films, and what's funny is that exploitation is still being made. It's just being made on reality TV shows. I mean, it's just a different flavor. That in 20 years, somebody's going to be doing a podcast or something, whatever the form is, and talking about reality TV shows or whatever.
So Max, are you a big Rutger Hauer fan?
Yeah, I actually really love him, and that's the only reason why I sat through this entire film, because when he shows up, obviously, it's very, very exciting, and he comes with, oh, help me here, Billy, an iconography?
Iconographic.
Billy?
He's famous.
You're not going to help me with the word.
Billy, help.
Iconography?
What, one more time?
What is it? Give me the description.
All right. Iconography.
Iconography?
Iconography, thank you. Rutger comes with an iconography.
Yes.
You guys are mean.
I really wish I had some of your Vicodin right now. I would
Bear
drop
with
that
me.
in my beer and just have a good time.
But the blood was Standard Brands paint, and this bum didn't even have the biggest beef. I know they were trying to create this crazy world, and the world just felt really cheap, and I understood the bum fights references, and I understood the horror with a heart of gold, and the very extreme, dare I say, almost like those killings were so uncomfortable because nothing was benefited from them. Like, nothing gets me more aroused besides Pam Grier splatting all over my glass coffin. Nothing gets me more aroused than a good revenge film.
Right.
But I didn't even feel like the hobo had a real case. And I just, the only thing I could rest my laurels on was Rutger's aging face and his iconography.
His face was great. I'm not sure about that other word though.
Yeah, and his bumness and his Rutgerness. It's just like,
Right.
It's the only reason I kept going until the end credits. And even the Drake, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, what an interesting face. What an interesting man. He's got the white suit.
Yeah.
There's something religious going on with the Last Supper tableau that he's creating with his crazy sons or whatever, but none of that stuff, none of that comic booky kind of zaniness really grabbed me at all.
Yeah, it doesn't slap you in the face. Yeah, it doesn't wake you up at all. Interesting you say about the Drake's face. One of his sons, and Joe, I want you to comment on this. Wears sunglasses throughout the movie, and I know that this is something that really disturbs you.
It doesn't.
It does. No. You've talking. You've said that you don't understand why people need to wear sunglasses on screen that it takes away. And there was a scene in the middle of the movie where his sunglasses come off, and it was so his character was so much more effective without him. And I kind of really I'm with you on that, Joe. It's kind of annoying that character wore those sunglasses.
Yeah, I don't know.
It takes away from any emotion that he's expressing.
Mm. Yeah, because he's a I mean, basically everybody's a cartoon character in the film.
Cartoon.
But yeah, so I mean, but yeah, I think I forget what movie we were talking about, Tom. But the deal was that, and I don't know, Billy, you probably agree with this too. I mean, you're behind the camera more than I am, actually. The problem with shooting people with sunglasses is that, you're basically taking away the most interesting thing that you can film, which is the human, the eyes and the it's a cliche, but the windows to the soul. So, I mean, but you don't really need to see the soul of a cartoon. He's just there to, shove things into other bodies or whatever the hell he was doing the whole time.
Billy, what did you think of Hobo?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much would just echo everything Joe has to say about it. It's almost hard for me to even say anything about it because the feeling of tiredness that I have when I see a film like that afterwards, I love those old exploitation movies too, but the key point is that you can't mimic that. You can't repeat that formula consciously because, I guess we should bring Tarantino into it at this point because there's a difference between what these guys are doing with Hobo with a Shotgun and what Tarantino is doing with something like Kill Bill, which is, I'm sorry guys, I can't help but, use references that sound snobby or whatever, but Gershwin took jazz from the clubs and made it into opera and symphonies and stuff like that, and that's kind of what Tarantino's doing with exploitation films. And
here's the deal.
These guys are just like a bad cover band in a townie bar.
Exactly, man. But here's the deal. Here's what the deal is, man. Tarantino understands exploitation. He's obviously brilliant, man. I mean, he understands. He's intelligent enough to know that exploitation filmmakers were trying to make good films. Even though he's
genuinely limited, they didn't have all the they didn't have all the best actors.
Yes,
those people acted the way they did because they genuinely were trying their goddamnedest.
Yeah, and so while Tarantino
are deliberately trying to look like cartoon character versions of the things, and it just rings hollow. It's fake. You can tell it's fake,
Yeah, but what Tarantino's doing, especially in a movie like I said Death Proof. I called it the wrong movie in another episode, but his Grindhouse film.
Death Proof is Tarantino. Planet Terror.
Death Proof. Death Proof. I called it Death Trap or something like that the other day.
Death Proof.
Death Proof. Yeah, he's giving an homage to the style and the aesthetic, but he's still trying to make a good movie, and that's and he succeeds because he's an enormously gifted filmmaker, and so he succeeds in making a good film despite all that irony and all that other nonsense that was kicked up in the 90s. You know what I mean?
Let me give you a gruesome detail of Tarantino movies too, and it's sort of my reason. I don't really like Tarantino, and Joe and I have had a lot of discussions about this. I think Kill Bill is sort of his opus because it expresses the penultimate point of his abilities and all that stuff. But here's the thing. Tarantino has a foot fetish, and you can tell this in every one of his movies, right? And
except Reservoir Dogs.
You may be right about that. But he is still making personal films for him. There's something that he's filtering all of that stuff through his personality and his exploitation and his exploitative nature is saying that in every movie I'm going to have a scene with a woman's foot in some way, right? So he's running all of that stuff not only through his intellect and his expertise as a dialogue writer and as a script structuralist and all that stuff, but he's also getting his rocks off on little personal things that are completely nonsensical. These guys, you look at Hobo with a Shotgun and you see a lot of fun, a lot of goofy fun and all of that, but there's nothing personal in it whatsoever, except that it's like a group of guys, in their college days sitting around a table with beers joking about how funny it would be to do this, that, and the other thing.
You're right. Yeah, Bill, man, you hit it right on. I mean, watching Hobo, that's there's nothing personal in this movie whatsoever.
I mean, that said, I have to tip my hat just on a DP cinematographer level. Have to tip my hat to the photography. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really slick, man. It's the color reversal setting on Magic Bullet. If you want to be specific.
I know. It was still really well. I mean, it was well photographed from the get go. But other than that, that's about
Max,
the highest compliment I can pay.
Max, do you dig Tarantino stuff as a whole?
Yeah, I think he's a hell of a lot of fun. I think his stuff has a lot more soulfulness to it, I guess, or heart. Like I was going to bring up Death Proof, which I thought was extraordinary and really underrated, because I thought Rodriguez's contribution was very, very weak in that Grindhouse film, but I thought that Death Proof was some of the best stuff I'd ever seen out of Tarantino, because not only is that dude always making a Valentine to the films that we're talking about, but I don't know, it comes with this unspoken third eye heartness to it. And actually, if I had to hold up Hobo with a Shotgun to like Machete or whatever, I enjoyed that a hell of a lot more, because that felt more like a party, and it really felt like it captured that spirit. But this just felt like some weird, I don't know, I felt like the filmmaker of this thing was just really just kind of yanking it. Like, let's let Rutger be the star and not you, because you've got Rutger. But I don't know.
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool to take Rutger Hauer and actually make a film? Like a real film,
Eating glass at some point. Like he had, they were doing a bum fights take where a film, not a filmmaker, but some scumbag is filming bums do things. And in order for Rutger to make some money, the bum filmed him eating glass.
Yeah, chewing glass. Yeah.
It felt totally literal. Like this was actually like happening allegorically with the film. Like Rutger on his knees eating glass to appease his filmmaker and make a buck. That's kind of what the whole movie felt like.
Yeah, and there's no point to it. I didn't watch that scene and think to myself, well, this guy's trying to get something across to me. There was nothing being said.
Rutger Hauer is a much more. He really should have had. Not that he hasn't had a great career, but he really should have had a much, I don't know, greater run than he did or something. Because now he's kind of been reduced to this Hobo with a Shotgun thing, and I think he's amazing.
Yeah, he is. I mean,
what eyes!
Yeah, I mean, look at him in. I mean, one horror film that he did in the '80s was The Hitcher, and that's
man.
Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible piece of work from.
I mean, his face right now, it just invites the camera. I mean, just imagine to have that guy on a set. Is that the movie that you really want to make with that guy and that face in front of your camera? That's what you're gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man, make a friggin' film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my frustration, Joe. I feel like the word I heard in my head was faux exploitation as I was watching it, just because it's become such a fetish, where it doesn't even properly belong to filmmaking or anything anymore, Like I don't know where it belongs, but it's just such a copy of a copy of a copy that.
Yeah. What's he? Like, there's like a child molesting Santa, and there was naked chicks like clubbing a body, and like a burning school bus of children.
I thought that was just awful.
The police saying, we have homeless people to kill. I mean, none of it. I didn't get any of it. I didn't know why I was hearing.
Because who cares? Ultimately, the filmmaker doesn't care. We don't care. The people in the film don't care. Yeah. Who cares?
Right. And then what? Sunglasses Goes to Hell on the bus of kids he burnt to a cinder? I don't understand any of it.
It's fun, but it essentially boils down to a college prank.
Yeah.
It's a YouTube video.
Well, there you go. Talk about your geek show. Let me ask you, Billy, did you think that Hobo with a Shotgun was on the same level of Human Centipede 2 as far as a geek show with the violence?
Well, the completely original thought I have right now that I don't have to repeat at all is that I find myself in the odd position of defending Tom Six because I think that he actually has something genuine to say, and at least he thinks he's got something intellectual to say through those Centipede movies, more so in the first one than the second one. But it's just like, I think if you watch these two movies side by side, you would go, okay, one guy's got something that he's actually trying to say, however awkwardly, however impishly.
Mm-hmm.
But these other guys, that's just a joke to them. It's a YouTube video to them, you know?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
they're
but
having
it's not even
fun.
a
You can
funny
tell they're
joke,
having fun.
but
And to tie it into the theme here, there's one that's a true exploitation film and one that's not. And the one that is a human centipede.
Yep.
And even though this one has the font and it says it's filmed in glaring Technicolor and all that business, it's not an exploitation film. It's not a horror film.
Recapitulation of the stuff that they're not even the first people to come up with the idea of redoing an exploitation thing or whatever. Back, again, Joe, the 90s, the golden age of irony. Rob Zombie was doing music videos that were an homage to the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and shit. Like they were remaking all that stuff 25 years ago.
Yeah,
and these guys are a copy of a copy of a copy. Like it's so tired and done.
Like Spike. What's his Spike Jones, like with that Weezer video and shit like that.
The Happy Days.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe and I used to joke about this years ago. There was a line from a Simpsons episode where these kids watched Homer get shot in the belly with a cannonball, and there's your sort of slope-shouldered hipsters, and one turned to the other and said, "That was pretty cool," and the other replied, "Are you being serious or sarcastic?" And the first one says, "I don't even know anymore."
Wow. And that could have been me and Tom in New Brunswick in 1996 because this is the thing, man. I'd sit with Tom and I'd be like, dude, they'd be watching. Oh, man, Tom, I remember one time you were watching a Gary Hoffman movie. Right. And, I walked in and, it's a low budget film by, I have no idea, some local filmmaker, blah, blah, blah. And this was on, I don't know, it must have been on film at that time.
Video.
Like, it was on video. Yeah. They filmed it on video. But they're all sitting around and mocking the film. I'm like, come on, guys. I just was like, I don't want any part of this, And like, we would watch Ed Wood movies, and I'd watch them seriously.
Yeah, I remember watching Glenda with you, Joe, and I'm again watching it to exploit it, to laugh at it. And I remember you turn around, look at me, and you're being like, this might seem silly, but this guy has some ideas.
I know it's ridiculous, but listen, man,
has great ideas.
No, I know. And Bill, with Joe saying that, and then growing and understanding Phil more and more throughout the years, I agree 100% with that comment.
Yeah, because dude, you shut. And this is Tom. This is like a personal relationship between me and you. As I point to your mask on Skype or whatever. I mean, this is a personal thing, man. I mean, you shut so much out with that sarcastic cynicism. You just don't you can't even know what you filter out of the world around you it's protection. You're protecting yourself from something by being so sarcastic and cynical about something. And I love you, man. I love you to death, dude.
Max.
Just I'm gonna start crying.
Max,
Tom.
you need to accuse Tom of something immediately because I've accused him of generalizing and stereotyping. Joe says he's cynical, and how did it go, Joe?
Yeah.
Well, we've been calling him sarcastic. I don't think anybody would. I don't think Tom himself would deny that he's sarcastic. But the point is, listen, man.
Jeez.
There's sarcasm's. It's really good in banter and fun and like everything. I of course I take part in it and everything. But at some point, man, you gotta say, look, I'm shutting myself out from certain experiences by being so cynical about the world. And it's the same thing that this dude's doing with Hobo with a Shotgun.
What are you saying? That I shut myself out from a lot of things?
Well, dude, you just said you shut yourself out from actually watching an Ed Wood film, and as ridiculous as that sounds.
But I also think, first of all, that was 15 years ago. Why am I defending myself? First of all, that was 15 years ago, and I also said that was a learning experience for me, that
Absolutely.
I wound up turning myself around in that thought
Absolutely.
and thinking differently about it.
Absolutely, man.
But Tom, you have to understand that Joe cherishes all the memories he has of being right when other people were wrong. So
Oh, that is terrible.
Yeah,
of you to
that's
say,
interesting, Billy.
All
We'll
right.
get into that next time.
We're gonna bring up some Billy problems too.
Billy
next time.
problems.
well, we psychoanalyzed Max at the beginning of the episode, Tom at the end. So I think it's Joe and my turn next time. So
We're
you guys
coming
have
at
this
it.
season.
Definitely. Hey, listen, guys. Why don't we do some ratings for Hobo with a Shotgun? All right, Max. Why don't you start us off?
2 stars.
Ooh, Mummy,
2 stars.
Billy,
2 stars.
1 star.
Oh!
It's crap.
With all those few stars, I do have to say to the fans out there, man, if I can, Tom, there's a lot of blood and a lot of killing. So there's maybe it may definitely be worth it. And honestly, if I was drunk in a movie theater with a bunch of friends, I'd probably have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Got
but you
it.
know what? I don't like seeing all those bums with their getting their heads smashed and the young kid getting his. I just thought it was junk. I think this filmmaker thinks he's all that. You could just see him like, hey, you guys, you gotta see my movie. How about with the shotgun? I got Rutger. I just kind of want to backhand him.
Can I actually back up?
Star, Max.
Fuckers!
1 star.
Huh?
1 star. Change your rating from 2 stars to 1 star.
I'm gonna give Hobo with the shotgun 1 star. I don't know what you're talking about, Joe. I got a lot of love for the blacks. Look at them. They walk around with their
Come on, don't paint that. Don't paint that portrait. I am not.
with JC.
Oh,
Good for them. They got their what do you call it? Their teeth.
Hey, what's that? The sound of Joe editing all of this out of the show?
Wait, I think that's the sound of the UFO that just came out from orbit and brought Max back to the show. Hey, Max, how's it going?
You guys, I'm sorry. Oh man.
Oh, all right, guys. Thanks a lot so much for partaking in yet another epic podcast.
We promise to take less Vicodin and beer next time.